It was supposed to be an unforgettable family road trip. Jake, his wife Sarah, and their two kids, Emily and Mark, were headed to a quaint cabin in the mountains for a week-long getaway. The sun was setting when they noticed the fuel gauge creeping towards empty. Panic set in as they realized they hadn't seen a gas station for miles. Just as hope was fading, a sign appeared on the horizon. Gas station 5 miles ahead. Relief washed over them as they pulled into the old, decrepit gas station. Weeds grew through the cracked asphalt, and the paint on the building was peeling, revealing its long-forgotten past. An old sign swung in the breeze, creaking ominously. The family stepped out, feeling a chill, despite the warm evening air. "Let's make this quick," Jake said, glancing nervously around. He began to fill the tank while Sarah and the kids stretched their legs. Emily spotted a rusted old bicycle leaning against the side of the building and ran over to inspect it. "Mom, look. This bike is so old," she called. "Don't touch anything, Emily," Sarah warned, her voice tense. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Jake finished pumping gas and walked towards the station's entrance to pay. The door creaked loudly as he pushed it open. Inside, dust covered every surface, and the air was thick with the scent of mildew. He approached the counter, but no one was there. A bell rang as he pressed the service button, echoing through the empty station. "Hello? Anyone here?" he called out. His voice seemed to vanish into the silence. Meanwhile, outside, Sarah noticed strange markings on the walls of the station. Symbols and messages, written in what appeared to be dried blood, covered the dilapidated structure. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "Jake, let's go. This place is giving me the creeps," she yelled towards the open door. Just as Jake was about to turn back, an old man emerged from the shadows behind the counter. His eyes were sunken, and his skin had a sickly pallor. "Need help, son?" the man asked, his voice raspy and unsettling. Yeah. Just need to pay for the gas," Jake replied, handing over some cash. The old man took it without breaking eye contact, his bony fingers brushing Jake's hand in a way that sent shivers down his spine. "You're not from around here, are you?" the old man said, a sinister smile creeping across his face. "Be careful. This place has a way of keeping people longer than they intend." Jake grabbed the receipt and hurried back to the car, his heart pounding. "Let's go," he said urgently. The family piled into the car, and Jake floored the gas pedal, eager to put distance between them and the Eerie station. As they drove away, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the road. Sarah turned to look back, and her blood ran cold. Standing in the doorway of the gas station were several shadowy figures, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. They drove in silence for miles, the atmosphere in the car thick with unease. Suddenly, the engine sputtered and the car rolled to a stop. Jake tried to restart it, but it was no use. They were stranded in the middle of nowhere. "What's wrong, Dad?" Mark asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know, son. I don't know," Jake replied, his own fear barely contained. In the darkness, the family heard whispers, faint and eerie, carried on the wind. The temperature dropped, and they could see their breath in the air. Emily clung to her mother, tears streaming down her face. From the shadows, figures emerged. The same glowing eyes they had seen at the gas station now surrounded them. The whispers grew louder, filling their minds with terror. As the figures closed in, Jake realized the old man was right. The gas station had a way of keeping people longer than they intended. The family huddled together, their screams swallowed by the darkness, as the spirits of the abandoned gas station claimed their souls. And so, the once forgotten station continued to stand, a beacon for lost souls, feeding on the fear of those who dared to stop. Jake was an experienced trucker, having crisscrossed the country countless times. One foggy night, he was driving down a deserted highway, miles from the nearest town, when fatigue began to set in. Spotting a weathered sign that read "Diner 2 miles," he decided to pull over for a hot meal and some rest. The diner came into view, its neon sign flickering ominously in the thick mist. Jake parked his rig and stepped out, stretching his legs before heading inside. The bell above the door jingled softly as he entered, but the place was eerily quiet. Only a few staff members were present, all wearing strained smiles. "Welcome. Sit anywhere you like," said a waitress with a forced cheerfulness that made Jake's skin crawl. He chose a booth in the corner, away from the few other customers, who seemed lost in their own worlds. As he settled in, the waitress brought him a menu. "What's good here?" he asked. "Everything," she replied, her smile unwavering. "The special tonight is meatloaf." "Sounds good," Jake said, handing back the menu. "I'll have that and a coffee." The waitress hurried off, and Jake glanced around the diner. The decor was outdated, with faded photographs of smiling travelers and truckers lining the walls. But something felt off. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Minutes passed, and Jake began to hear faint whispers, barely audible over the hum of the diner. He looked around, but no one seemed to notice. The whispers grew louder, filling his head with unintelligible words. He rubbed his temples, trying to clear his mind. The waitress returned with his coffee. "Here you go," she said, placing the cup in front of him. "Your meal will be out shortly." "Thanks," Jake muttered, taking a sip. The coffee was bitter, but it did little to calm his nerves. He looked up and saw a shadowy figure standing at the far end of the diner. As he blinked, the figure vanished. Jake's pulse quickened. He tried to dismiss it as a trick of the light, but the whispers persisted, growing more insistent. He could make out a few words now. "Leave, trapped, forever." His meal arrived, but his appetite had vanished. He forced down a few bites of the meatloaf, which tasted oddly metallic, and decided it was time to leave. He waved for the check, but the waitress was nowhere to be seen. The other staff members seemed to avoid his gaze, their smiles never reaching their eyes. Jake stood up and headed for the door, but a cold breeze stopped him in his tracks. The whispers reached a crescendo, and he turned to see the diner filled with ghostly apparitions. The once empty seats were now occupied by translucent figures, their faces etched with sorrow and despair. "Help us. Don't leave," they moaned, their voices echoing in Jake's mind. He backed away, his heart pounding in his chest. He bolted for the exit, pushing the door open with all his strength. The bell jingled one last time as he stumbled into the night. He ran to his truck, fumbling with the keys, before finally getting the engine started. As he sped away from the diner, the whispers faded, but the memory of those haunting voices lingered. Jake vowed never to stop at a secluded diner again. The image of those ghostly travelers forever etched in his mind. The next day, he passed another trucker on the road. They exchanged a nod, and Jake couldn't help but wonder if that trucker would encounter the haunted diner and its restless spirits. He shuddered at the thought and focused on the open road ahead, determined to leave the past behind. It was supposed to be a fun-filled road trip. Emma, Alex, Maria, and Tom had been friends since college, and they had decided to take a spontaneous late-night drive to visit a new city. The night was clear, and the stars lit up the sky as they drove along the deserted highway, laughing and sharing stories. As the clock struck midnight, fatigue began to set in. Alex, who was driving, suggested they find a rest area to stretch their legs and take a break. The next sign they saw pointed to a remote rest area just a few miles ahead. Without much thought, they decided to pull in. The rest area was dimly lit, with only a few flickering lights casting long shadows. The place had an unsettling vibe, but the group shrugged it off, attributing it to their tired minds. They parked the car and got out, breathing in the cool night air. "Let's take a quick walk and then get back on the road," Emma suggested. As they wandered around, Tom noticed strange symbols etched into the concrete and trees. "Hey guys, check this out," he called, pointing to the eerie markings. The others gathered around, curiosity piqued. "Looks like some kind of weird graffiti," Maria said, her voice tinged with unease. The group continued to explore, and they soon stumbled upon a bulletin board covered in old faded photographs. Each photo depicted a missing person, their faces staring out with haunting expressions. "This is creepy," Alex muttered, examining the photos. "Why are there so many missing people here?" As they delved deeper into the rest area, they began to feel an oppressive presence, as if they were being watched. The air grew colder, and an eerie silence enveloped them. Suddenly, a chilling whisper echoed through the air. "Help us! Find us!" Emma turned pale. "Did you guys hear that?" "Yeah, and I don't like it," Tom replied, his voice shaking. They continued to hear the whispers, growing louder and more desperate. The friends huddled together, their fear mounting. Out of the corner of her eye, Maria saw a shadowy figure dart behind a tree. "There's someone here!" she screamed, pointing towards the figure. The group turned, their flashlights illuminating the dark figure. As they approached, the figure seemed to dissolve into mist, leaving behind a cold, eerie presence. The whispers intensified, and the friends realized they were surrounded by the restless spirits of the missing individuals. "Please, help us. We're trapped." The spirits moaned, their voices filled with sorrow and pain. As the friends tried to make sense of the situation, the spirits began to reveal the dark secrets of the rest area. It was a place where a serial killer had lured unsuspecting travelers, leaving behind a trail of disappearances. The symbols they had seen were part of a ritual that trapped the souls of the victims, preventing them from finding peace. "We need to get out of here," Alex said urgently, his heart pounding. "Now." They turned to run back to the car, but the spirits blocked their path, their ghostly forms flickering in and out of view. "You can't leave. We need you," they whispered, their eyes filled with desperation. Emma, driven by a sudden surge of courage, spoke to the spirits. "We'll find a way to help you, but you have to let us go first." The spirits hesitated, then slowly parted, allowing the friends to pass. The group sprinted to their car, the whispers fading as they drove away from the cursed rest area. As they sped down the highway, They made a pact to return and find a way to free the trapped souls. In the days that followed, the friends researched the history of the rest area and the serial killer who had used it as a hunting ground. With the knowledge they gathered, they returned to perform a ritual to break the curse and free the spirits. Under the light of the full moon, they recited the incantation, and the symbols began to glow. The spirits appeared one last time, their expressions softened with gratitude. "Thank you," they whispered before fading into the night, finally at peace. The friends left the rest area, knowing they had made a difference. The haunting experience had bonded them even closer, and they vowed never to forget the souls they had set free.
Thank you for watching Mysterious Vibe. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more unsettling, true scary stories. Sleep tight if you can.